It was a cold afternoon in downtown Havenford. Despite being a small town, it felt like everyone knew each other. In this place where old and new intertwined, modern skyscrapers towered over small family businesses. Havenford had its own unique charm, yet there was an underlying tension that could be felt beneath the surface. Elena Moore was a graceful woman in her early 30s. She had just stepped out of her favourite cafe, a place she visited every lunch break. After finishing her coffee, she headed toward her car, which was parked just a few steps away. Eleanor was the wife of James Moore, the city's police chief. However, she had never wanted any special treatment because of it. She had always preferred to stay humble. As she walked toward her car, she noticed two police officers approaching her. Officers Andrews and Reynolds suddenly stopped beside her, blocking her path. Their sharp gazes scanned her from head to toe. The tension between them was palpable. "Excuse me, ma'am," Andrews said. "We need to ask you a few questions." Eleanor was surprised, but she turned to the officers, keeping her composure. "Is there a problem, officers?" she asked. Andrews didn't even smile. He simply glanced at Reynolds, prompting him to step forward. "We've received reports of suspicious activity in this area," Reynolds said. "We need to search you." Eleanor was confused. "Suspicious activity? I'm sorry, but I just came out of the cafe. Is there a specific reason you want to search me?" she asked, trying to remain polite, but a growing unease stirred inside her. Andrews crossed his arms and narrowed his eyes. "Are you refusing a search?" Eleanor's instincts were on high alert. She wasn't resisting, but she also felt this wasn't right. "No, I'm not refusing. But do you suspect me of something?" Without another word, Reynolds suddenly stepped forward and pulled out a pair of handcuffs. "Turn around," he ordered firmly. "We need to search you." Eleanor froze. "You're going to search me, but why? I haven't done anything." Andrew's expression hardened. "Turn around, Mom. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." People passing by kept their heads down, hurrying away. No one wanted to get involved. Eleanor reluctantly turned her back. If she resisted, things could escalate even further. She felt the cold metal cuffs snap around her wrists. Reynolds searched her aggressively, yanking at her coat and rummaging through her bag. A deep sense of humiliation washed over her. She had done nothing wrong, yet she was being treated like a criminal, just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. When Reynolds finally finished, Andrews gave her a skeptical look. "You sure? Got nothing to hide, Mom?" Eleanor clenched her jaw but kept her voice steady. "I want to call my husband." Andrews let out a mocking laugh. "Oh yeah? And who's your husband? Go ahead, call him, let's see." Her hands now free, Eleanor pulled out her phone and dialed. "You'll find out soon enough." The line barely rang twice before a deep, authoritative voice came through. "Eleanor, what happened?" The caller was none other than James Moore, Chief of Police of Havenford. "They're questioning me, James. Officers Andrews and Reynolds," Elena said, glancing at the officers. Their smug expressions faltered slightly, but they still looked confident. There was a brief silence on the other end, then James's voice returned, firm and unwavering. "Where are you?" "Corner of Olive and Maple. I just left the cafe. I've done nothing wrong, but they're treating me like a suspect." "I'll be there in 5 minutes." James hung up. Eleanor straightened her posture, now standing with renewed confidence. She knew James would handle this, but still the sting of being humiliated for no reason lingered. Andrews, now visibly restless, paced back and forth. Then his eyes snapped up as he noticed something. A black SUV approaching fast. The vehicle came to an abrupt stop, tires screeching slightly. The door swung open, and a tall, imposing figure stepped out, dressed in full uniform, Chief James Moore. His eyes burned with fury as he marched toward them. The officers froze. They recognized him immediately. "Chief Moore?" Andrews stammered, stepping forward as if trying to explain himself. James's cold stare was enough to silence him. "Step aside," he ordered. There was no room for argument. The officers quickly moved back, suddenly looking unsure of themselves. James turned to Eleanor. His eyes softened as he scanned her from head to toe. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low and gentle. Elena nodded, but the humiliation still burned inside her. "I'm fine, but..." Her gaze flickered toward the officers, who still stood rigidly in place. James's face hardened again. He turned to the two men. "You," he said sharply. "Explain yourselves." Andrews shifted uncomfortably, throwing a nervous glance at Reynolds, who remained silent. "Well, sir, we received reports of suspicious activity in the area. Your wife matched the description." James narrowed his eyes. "What description? Did she resist? Did she pose any kind of threat to you?" "No, sir," Reynolds muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. The once busy street had gone completely silent. Everyone was watching, holding their breath. James took a step closer, his voice turning even sharper. "Then why did you feel the need to harass her? Was it just because she's a black woman? Was that your only suspicion?" Andrews swallowed hard, his voice shaking. "Sir, we were just following protocol." "Your protocol is broken," James said, his voice rising slightly. "And you're going to pay for it." The air was thick with tension. The officers stood frozen, fully aware they had crossed a line. Without taking his eyes off them, James pulled out his phone and swiftly dialed the Internal Affairs Bureau. His voice was calm, but there was an undeniable authority behind it. "I want an immediate investigation into Officers Andrews and Reynolds," he said, his words crisp and clear. "Effective immediately, they are to be placed on suspension until further notice." Andrews' face drained of colour. "Sir, we didn't mean for this to happen," he stammered. But James silenced him with a sharp glare. "Didn't mean for what to happen?" James asked, his voice like ice. "You didn't mean to harass my wife? You didn't mean to treat her as less than just because of the colour of her skin? Was it a human mistake? Or did you just not expect to get caught?" For the first time, Reynolds stepped forward, his voice shaking. "It was a mistake, sir. We were just doing our job." James's brow furrowed. "A mistake?" he repeated, his tone cutting. "One that could have escalated into something far worse? And you think that's an excuse?" By now, the street was lined with onlookers. Some whispered among themselves, others simply watched, waiting to see justice unfold. Minutes later, Internal Affairs officers arrived on the scene. They pulled Andrews and Reynolds aside, questioning them as the once confident officers now stood with their heads lowered, their arrogance replaced by fear and regret. Eleanor stood beside James, watching everything unfold. There was a sense of relief, but the weight of sorrow still lingered. She hadn't been judged for something she did, but simply for the colour of her skin. Justice had been served, but the scars of this experience would remain. James turned to her, his expression softening. "I'm sorry you had to go through this," he said quietly. "I won't let it happen again." Eleanor nodded with a faint smile. "Thank you for coming. I didn't know what else to do." "Elena, you did the right thing," he reassured her, wrapping a protective arm around her shoulders. "And now, those officers will face the consequences of their actions." As they walked away from the scene, the people of Havenford murmured among themselves. This was a day that wouldn't be easily forgotten. A day when the police chief's wife had been wrongfully harassed, but justice had been swift and public. Reckoning had come, and it served as a lesson to everyone. No one, not even the police, was above the law. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell for more captivating stories. Have a great day!